So, back-to-back trips to the state finals. Eh, Freshman year, you guys won it. Last year, you guys came up just short. Talk about what it has meant to you to be able to lead Cass Tech to these heights of back-to-back state final appearances after them not being there for a handful of years.
It feels great, leading them back after, a good amount of time. I think it was about 8 or 9 years since being in a state final, winning a state final. So being able to, go back and be at the top of the mountain, especially my freshman year, top of the mountain, right where Cass was at a point of winning, I think 3 and 5 years, 3 and 6 years, something like that. Being at that point where, back to Cass Tech football, and then sophomore year being right at that second place on that mountain. Not necessarily where you want to finish at, but right close. So having that legacy of almost, these next 2 years, hopefully being back to state championship, winning state championship, and being able to say, going to 4 years and being almost known as one of the greats at Cass Tech.
For you, you've played with some greats at Cass Tech,
Yeah.
in CJ, Alex. List goes on and on. Talk about what you learned from them as a freshman, making it to that point of being a state finalist and champion, and then even more so, what did you take from them and their leadership abilities that you were going to be taking forward for yourself?
Yeah, 100%. Thinking about the greats, think of Corey Sadler, Khalif Canty, Alex Graham, you really guys who've gone off and are being successful in college right now and who are successful at the high school level. And learning from them, everybody's a little different. Everybody's leadership style is a little different. So just taking bits and pieces, learning a lot for myself. I'm similar to Alex, just being, quieter, but still being a vocal leader, and being very tuned in with the coaches. So learning a lot from him my freshman year, especially when he came back and seeing how he kind of earned the team's respect when he came back from IMG, and how he did it and how he went to buy it. Just seeing him do it and seeing him do it at a high level, that's really one of the guys that really learned how to truly be a leader, um, learning from him.
For you, already close to 5,000 passing yards. You're going to hit that mark this year. Over 50 touchdowns already. Talk about your preparation going into each season and each week playing. I mean, you guys play King normally 2 times a year, once in the regular season and then once in the PSL championship. Talk about how you prepare going in and out each week for these games and these teams.
I'll say a lot of times different. It just depends on who we play. Of course, when you get to teams like King, King twice a year, Michigan City, it's a little different than necessarily when we're playing Mumford or schools of that nature. But like getting ready for King Week, of course, playing them twice a year, you know them very well. You know what they're going to do. They know what we're going to do. Um, at that point, it's just about around the players who are on the field, getting that guys the ball. Um, and when you play a team so much, like King, we playing them, by the time I graduated, I played them 8 times. So, playing a team that knows you so well, it's really about the players and not the plays. So find the best matchups, the best leverage, and seeing who I can really pick on because they know what you're going to do. They know your formation. They know your signals. They know your play calls. So it's really about going into weeks like that. It's really about finding the best matchups on film, finding the best leverage, find guys who can pick on. Um, that's the biggest focus for me in weeks like that.
It, not only are you a stud on the football field, golf, you were a regional qualifier this year.
Yeah.
Last year, as a freshman, you were a regional champ in track. Talk about just this athletic ability that you have, being able to go from football to track as a freshman, and then now showing that you have some nice drive on that golf course.
Yeah, it was just my family, my background. I have, on my dad's side of the family, I have, um, my family's from South Florida, on my dad's mom's side. Um, so, people who've played at Florida State, people who've played basketball who are 6'4", 6'5". And then my granddad on my dad's side, or my granddad, who's my dad's dad, um, he played baseball, Negro League baseball. That's why I get my arm from. I say get my arm from, and he was a really good golfer. So that's why I feel like I get my golfing from as well. And then just the track wise, I have my a second cousin, I believe now is my dad's first cousin, so second cousin, who was a track athlete, ran the Olympics, who was supposed to run the Olympics, in the '80s. So I just have a lot of genes, a lot of blood ties to a lot of athletes in my family, whether it's football, basketball, track, Negro Leagues, whatever you want to call it. Just a lot of athletic genes in my family.
You bring it up there. I was going to bring it up next. Your family athletic history.
Yeah,
You mentioned your grandfather played in the Negro Leagues. Your dad played linebacker at Northwood. Your little brother is a stud in eighth grade as a linebacker. Talk
yeah,
about a little bit more of this family athletic history, especially with your grandpa, who I believe you're named after, if I'm not
yeah.
mistaken. Uh,
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that family connection and that connection to your grandfather.
Um, just just that, like I said, that the whole athletic, background of our family. Getting the arm talent from him. My granddad was a pitcher shortstop. Getting that arm talent from him, and really, having a legacy, being named after him carries a lot of weight, a lot of big shoes to fill. Of course, him being in the Canadian Sports Hall of Fame, it's big shoes to fill. My dad being in, his team being in the Hall of Fame at Northwood is seeing that legacy I have to fill. Big shoes. And then of course my brother keep creeping up right behind me after him, and then you know falling behind their legacy, but also having to be an inspiration to my younger brother who wants to be like his big brother at the end of the day. He might not say it every day, but who wants to be like his big brother at the end of the day, and wants to be just as successful or even more successful than him. So just being able to be that, role model, that inspiration to my brother and people of his age, and then, but also fill the shoes and be better than my dad and my granddad ever was. So it's a mixed goal.
It, Talk a little bit more. I mean, your grandfather with that Hall of Fame in Canada,
Yeah.
playing for the Chatham All-Stars. Chatham, if I'm not mistaken, was also one of the last stops on the Underground Railroad. It
Yes.
talk about having, learning all about your grandfather's baseball ability and what do you take from being named after him?
I've been up to Chatham a few times with my dad, their Sports Hall of Fame, and being able to just see the history, the field they played on. Taking trips up there with my dad to see the field they played on. The Sports Hall of Fame where their team and their gears in, and just being able to learn. He passed away a few months before I was born, so I never got to meet him. But hearing the stories, hearing the type of person he was outside of baseball, um, just the leader he was, the dad he was, and just being able to hear the stories, it makes me proud to say like I'm named after him and have the same name rights as him. Just being the second, and then also just having that type of person. He raised my dad, and so being able to have that dad who was raised by a great person, and then also having a dad who was a great person, raising me to be a great person. Um, Having that rich history in my blood, I'm very thankful for. Not many people can say they've had their their granddad was a Canadian in the Canadian Sports Hall of Fame. Not many people can say that. Um, so having that history, having that rich history, I'm very thankful for.
I also noticed your deep connection to your grandma as well.
Yes.
I saw a post not too long ago from you talking about her being your why. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah. My grandma, she's a big sports fan. Like, she's UNC basketball. Um, she's biggest sports fan. She would come to all the games, sit on the sideline, have her own little tent, chair with the tent over her head. She was just the biggest sports fan ever since I knew her when I was younger. And then she um, got diagnosed with dementia, Alzheimer's disease. So as she got older, her memory just started getting worse and worse. And so it'll be times where like she'll forget my name, she'll forget my dad's name, she forget where she is. And a lot of the times when she needed 24-hour kind of service and a caretaker. And a lot of time when our caretaker would leave, I would become her kind of caretaker, kind of really from after I got home from practice or if it was off season when I got home from school to when she got ready to go to sleep. So had a lot of time to just connect with her, even though she may not remember. Just a lot of time to connect with her and a lot of memories of just before she had Alzheimer's. And I was able to see past the Alzheimer's, past the dementia when she was almost like just a normal human being. Uh, so that was really my why. She would come to all my games. She was always so happy, so inspirational. She never got down on me, even when I would make mistakes. She would just say, it's always the next time, it's always the next play. And she always uplifted me. So when she passed away a few years ago, um, it was heartbreaking, but I knew she would want me to, not get too down on her passing away and just do it for her, do it for the people around me, and play the sport I love, just for not for hate but for love. Just do it, go out there, play my best, and not regret or doubt any second of it.
When you look at it, how much does that support that she gave you before she passed away, the support that your the rest of your family, your dad, your mom, your brother give you, how much does that mean to you? I mean, you get all this national spotlight of being this five-star quarterback. How much does it mean to you to have this family support behind you?
100%, because there were definitely times where I wanted to quit. I didn't want to play sports anymore. It's getting difficult. Um, so for me, being able to have that, behind my grandma, my dad, my mom, my younger brother, um, knowing that I could push past hard times, push past adversity, and being what I can be today. Because you know, they always say um, your kids don't see what you see in the future, what your parents see in the future. They were able to see the future of me and what I was capable of achieving. So having their visionary, them knowing what I'm possible of achieving, it's great.
Eh, For you, Michigan has become kind of a hotbed of quarterbacks in the last 5, 6, 7 years. Dante Moore, Bryce Underwood, both had massive success. Both led teams to the state finals and multiple state championships. You come right on the heels of Bryce graduating and everything, Dante graduating. Talk
Yeah,
about that quarterback lineage from Christian Du Reed, who was at Belleville,
yeah,
up to Bryce, Dante, CJ Kerr, Tommy Kerr, who's now at Michigan.
yeah.
Talk about this legacy of Michigan quarterbacks and where you're kind of at right now in comparison to some of those guys.
100%. Hearing the stories like your math is, Dante Moore, Bryce, who was a senior when I was a freshman, who I'm still mad I didn't get to play against. You were one game with playing each other. Um, but, having that legacy of Michigan quarterbacks, you know, a lot of people, uh, I think a lot of people think Michigan is an underrated football state, especially to be producing quarterbacks. You're gonna have three, you know, three starting at a very high level this year, and Dante Bryson, CJ, who is going to be starting at a very high level and playing at a very high level, and being quote unquote the um, next one up. I appreciate it, but really just trying to build my own legacy out of those three or four, trying to be different than the rest. So, but
Yeah,
I appreciate being quote unquote the next one.
PSL it has put a bunch of guys into college high level, has put a bunch of guys into the NFL. What does it mean to you to be playing in a league that does put all these guys at that next level and even at the highest level of them all? I mean, Dante, Michael Dukes was at King, is now at Rutgers. A bunch of NFL talent like Sauce Gardner. Uh, what does being in the PSL mean to you?
It's a rich history. You think of the guys who are at Cass, Diamond People Jones. Um, there's a lot of guys. I can't think of anybody off the head, but there's a lot of guys who are just at Cass, Buddy Roan, Brandon Graham, Larry Foote. Just a lot of rich history in the PSL, and kind of really rebuilding it over these last few years. Just really getting back into this kind of new year, new generation of getting guys into PSL, into King, Cass, other schools, and just being more competitive. It feels great being, like I said, like one of the next ones out of PSL, be the next great one out of PSL. After CJ, after Khalid, who are two great, two of the best PSL athletes of all time, in my opinion. So being the next one to come out of a great uh, district of legendary players who made the NFL. I've been playing at high levels in college, NFL. Feels great.
When you look at it, I know you haven't started your junior year, even your senior year yet, but what you have been able to do so far at Cass Tech as the starter, 23-1. Like I mentioned before, you're close to 5,000 at 4,500 passing yards, 52 touchdowns. It, where can you see this year and even as a senior, all of this going?
I feel for me, it's another two state championships. That's the expectation. That's the goal. Win this year, win next year, and then just build for the future of Gas Tech. When it's the 2030s or 2031s, 2032s, and just build that rich history of Gas Tech football. King started off in 2007, I believe. I saw the other day when the first PSL state championship, we're state championship in the PSL. And ever since, Detroit schools, PSL schools have been building legacies of winning state championships and just continue building that legacy of Cass Tech winning state championships. Um, Almost like how us, Catholic Central has a bunch of state championships, just building that history. And it starts with me winning my freshman year and then just keep winning. And over the next few years, just in the next classes in to win state championships. To me, I'm trying to start a legacy at Cass Tech of just keep winning state championships, keep winning state championships.
Don, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time.
No
Uh,
problem.
so you kind of have an idea of how this is going